ever thought that maybe, just maybe, ancient myths aren't myths at all, but like actual history? Or that prophecies could be, well, scientifically verifiable?
It's a pretty mind-bending idea to start with.
Totally. So today, we're diving deep into this article. It's really got us thinking. It challenges how we see time, scripture, even money.
Right. The source is an article called Hinduism is Not a False Religion. It's from a blog, Face.
Yeah, and our mission here is basically to unpack what it's saying. It talks about these huge cycles of time, what really makes something scripture, and finds these surprising links between ancient Hindu texts and modern science.
And we're definitely going to connect some dots for you, this deep dive. It takes concepts that seem worlds apart, cosmology, economics, you name it, and links them through this lens of, well, what the source calls ancient wisdom.
It promises a pretty profound look at history, spiritual evolution, makes you
Yeah.
see these old texts differently.
Absolutely. It's asking us to maybe reconsider some fundamental assumptions.
Okay, so let's get into it. The source kicks off talking about ages, not just vaguely, but specific chunks of time, thousands of years.
Right. And it points out references even in, like, the gospel and Isaiah that talk
Yeah.
about these shifts,
Yeah.
a coming age of peace, that sort of thing.
But Hinduism, according to the article, has this incredibly detailed framework for cyclical ages.
The Yugas.
Exactly. And we're apparently in the Kali Yuga right now. The article calls it the age of great sin. Humanity's basically drifted furthest from God.
And this has supposedly been going on for, what, over 5,000 years, according to this source?
Yeah, something like that. And the next one coming up is the Satya Yuga, the age of truth.
Which sounds a lot better. Great harmony, spiritual knowledge.
And get this, the source says human capacity for spiritual knowledge will be 100 times greater than it is now.
Wow. Okay, so it's not just about world peace. It's about a fundamental shift in human consciousness or capability.
Seems like it.
And what really stands out is, like you said, this framework. It's a way to map history and spiritual development over millennia. It's not random.
Right.
Each age has its own characteristics, its own level of human spiritual potential, societal norms. And when you hear phrases in the Bible like, God is about to say something new.
It kind of clicks into that framework, doesn't it? A shift happening.
Exactly. It suggests this grand narrative laid out across huge spans of time. Makes you think about where we might fit into that right now.
Okay, and here's where it gets, well, really interesting, maybe even controversial for some. The source makes this argument. It says, look, if prophecies prove God exists and make the Bible scripture.
Then what about other books?
Right. What about other books like Hindu scriptures that also contain prophecies you can apparently verify? Shouldn't they also be considered scripture by that logic?
It's a direct challenge to exclusivity, yeah.
And it backs us up with something pretty stunning. It talks about NASA engineers, and the article makes a point of saying they're non-Hindus, white folks, emphasizing this sort of external validation.
Okay.
These engineers apparently confirm that the night sky, because its patterns are unique and never repeat exactly, is basically the best calendar we could ever have.
Like a celestial fingerprint for any given moment in time.
Precisely. You describe the sky tonight. Someone 10,000 years from now could pinpoint the exact date if they had the right tools and knowledge.
Okay, I see where this is going.
So the Mahabharata and the Ramayana, the source says every major event in them has these immaculate descriptions of the night sky.
Detailed astronomical observations embedded in the text.
Exactly. And when you feed those ancient descriptions into modern NASA software, boom.
You get dates.
You get dates. The Mahabharata clocks in around 5,000 years ago. The Ramayana, even older, around 7,000 years ago.
Wow. Okay, so connecting that back. If that dating holds up using modern astronomy, what does that do to the idea that these are just myths?
Right, completely reframes them.
It suggests, a level of astronomical knowledge and record keeping way back then that's, well, it's pretty staggering if true. It forces a reevaluation.
Yeah, and the source specifically ties these dates to the Yuga cycle. It says the Mahabharata is from the Dwapar Yuga.
Which is the age before Kali Yuga.
Right.
Still some decline,
Right.
but more spiritual insight than now.
And the Ramayana from the Treta Yuga, even earlier, even more spiritually attuned.
So the astronomical dating is used to anchor these epic events within that larger cosmic timeline.
Exactly. And it adds weight to the source's other claims, like it mentions 11 specific prophecies from these 5,000-year-old scriptures that it claims have already come true in Lord Kalki.
Kalki, the figure prophesied to appear at the end of the Kali Yuga, often shown on a white horse, ushering in the new age.
Yeah. So the argument is, Ancient text, astronomical proof, fulfilled prophecies. It's building a case.
It's definitely presenting a very specific interconnected narrative.
So moving from these like vast timelines, the article also brings it down to specific figures and places. Lord Krishna, for instance.
In the Mahabharata.
Right.
Yeah.
He apparently predicts the Kali Yuga, our current age. And he says people will kill each other and not even know why. And the source emphasizes how utterly shocking this was to the people in the Mahabharata. They couldn't even conceive of humans acting that way.
Which itself says something about the perceived difference between the ages, doesn't it? A different baseline level of consciousness or morality.
Definitely. And it's not just figures, it's places, like Kashi.
Varanasi or Benares.
Yeah. Described in the article as the oldest continuous city in the world. And the source claims it was untouched by colonization for 1,000 years, and that these non-Hindu scientists date it back about 10,000 years.
10,000 years. Continuous habitation. That's hard to wrap your head around.
It really is. Founded, the article says, by disciples of Shiva in the last Satya Yuga. So connecting it way back in the cycle.
Okay, so Kashi becomes like a physical anchor point bridging these vast ages.
Seems like it. And speaking of Shiva, there's this account in the source. It says Shiva just appeared, descended in the Himalayas, sitting in a meditation pose.
Just manifested.
Yeah. Hundreds of people around. Slowly, most left, but 7 stayed. They became his disciples, the Saptarishis, the 7 sages.
Yeah.
And they apparently peppered him with questions about the physical world, science, the universe. And Shiva just yawned and said, and this is a quote from the source, "This entire universe I can fit into a mustard seed. I am not here to teach you about this world. I am here to impart spiritual knowledge."
Wow, that's a statement.
And then he adds, "All your science and technology is one mustard seed."
So positioning spiritual knowledge is infinitely vaster, encompassing the material not separate from it.
Exactly.
That really flips the usual script, where science is often seen as the ultimate framework for understanding reality. Here, it's just a tiny part.
A mustard seed's worth.
And what does that imply about the nature of knowledge itself? The source also mentions Shiva's teaching to these sages was 100 times more than what Buddha taught much later.
Right, but it clarifies it's not about intelligence, it's about the sheer volume or scope of the knowledge shared.
Imagine a state where, I don't know, intuition is as reliable as data, or collective consciousness allows for instant understanding. It's a radically different way of knowing.
Yeah. And then the source ties this into a lineage, a single line of divine incarnations.
Okay, how so?
It presents Lord Vishnu, who it says is known as Yahweh by the Jews,
Okay, equating those figures
as having come to earth across the ages, first as Rama,
in the Ramayana,
then as Krishna,
Mahabharata,
then as the Buddha,
around 2,500 years ago.
and now, according to the source, is back as Lord Kalki.
So, one divine essence, multiple appearances, timed for specific ages or needs.
That's the picture it paints. And it explicitly says Lord Kalki is the long-awaited Messiah of the Jews and the answer to the Christian prayer, "Thy kingdom come."
So unifying these different messianic expectations under one figure, Kalki, that's quite a synthesis.
It's a very unified vision, yeah. So, okay, bringing this all to today, what does it mean now? The source points out some interesting things about language, about names.
Like what?
Like, nobody in the Mahabharata or Ramayana is actually called a Hindu. That name, it says, came from the British.
Right. A geographic or external label, not an internal religious one from that time. Sanatana Dharma is often cited as the internal term.
Exactly. And same for India, apparently. Also British, and even Everest.
Mount Everest wasn't called Everest by the locals, no. It had other names.
So the article says India's actual Indian name is Farat, and it makes a prophecy
Okay.
that Farat will rename itself Kalkistan after Lord Kalki. It presents this as something coming soon, tying it back to those 11 fulfilled prophecies.
So a predicted national renaming linked directly to this divine figure's arrival and influence.
Yeah. And the roadmap for this new era, this prophesied peace and prosperity, is laid out in the Kalkis Manifesto,
A specific text.
which the source claims, very boldly, will be the last book of economics on Earth.
The last book of economics.
Huh.
Okay, what's the economic connection here?
This is maybe one of the most surprising links. Money.
Money. How does money fit into ancient prophecy?
The source argues that money is the most mentioned word in the Gospels for a reason. It claims the Kali Yuga, the age of sin, began when this entity, the Kali Purush, basically Satan or the devil,
Okay.
was granted permission to reside in specific things. And, top of the list, money and gold in gambling.
Ah, so the argument is that the very mechanism of money and related things like gambling became the primary vehicles for this negative influence, this sin, to permeate society.
Exactly. That these systems inherently foster greed, division, exploitation, the hallmarks of the Kali Yuga.
I see. It's interesting take on the root of the age's problems,
And so, logically, if money is where the devil resides, the way to end the age of sin,
is to get rid of money, create a moneyless society.
that's what the Calcist Manifesto apparently proposes.
Okay, connecting that bigger picture. That's a radical reevaluation of our entire economic structure,
Yeah.
tying it directly to spiritual ages and prophecy.
It really is.
And it raises that huge question. How does this idea of a moneyless society, proposed as the solution to end an age of sin, challenge basically everything we think about progress, civilization, economics?
Yeah, the article doesn't give like a 5-step plan, but it emphasizes the fundamental shift in thinking needed, moving away from material accumulation as the driver.
And it loops back to the ages again. The source concludes saying, all religions born in this age will end with this age.
Because the capacity changes.
Right. In the new age, the Satya Yuga, that human capacity for spiritual knowledge jumps 100-fold. It echoes, again, Jesus saying more info would come later, or God is about to say something new.
So understanding these ages isn't just history, it's like understanding the operating system humanity is running on at any given time.
That's a good way to put it. The source argues it's the blueprint for our spiritual capacity, dictating the challenges and potentials of now.
Wow. Okay, so we've covered a lot. This deep dive took us from these vast cyclical ages, prophecies dated by astronomy,
To this unified idea of divine figures appearing across traditions.
and landed on this really radical idea of a moneyless future to basically end the current age of sin.
And what's really fascinating is how the source positions Hinduism, or more specifically Sanatana Dharma, as holding the key. It says it contains the templates for spiritual knowledge for the last 3 ages, something found nowhere else.
So it's presented as this ancient, continuous repository of this deeper knowledge.
Exactly. It really challenges you to think about where true knowledge comes from and how it might be revealed as we approach this potential new age. It makes you ask, have we been looking in the right places?
And it leaves us with this really powerful, thought-provoking idea right at the end. The source asserts point blank, God is here. God is about to say something new. So the question for you listening is, what does that mean? What if we really are on the verge of a totally new era of spiritual understanding? The source mentions, in heaven there is no religion because angels can feel God's direct presence.
Implying a future state for humanity beyond current religious structures, perhaps.
Perhaps. It just makes you wonder, what's coming next? What revelations are still waiting? And are we, as humanity, actually ready for a time when knowledge might operate on a completely different level?
A profound question to end on. Lots to mull over there.